Right guys, it's Finn here, welcome back to another video where today we'll be rating every Premier League team's transfer window. We'll be discussing who were the winners and who were the losers in terms of their transfer business over the last month or two in the Premier League. Now as you guys can see, obviously I've got a tier list set up in front of me in which we'll rate all 20 Premier League teams from winners all the way to losers, and in terms of who was successful and who absolutely flopped in terms of bringing in players and getting rid of players in their club, and were those the right decisions for the upcoming Premier League season. Now obviously as you guys can see, I am finally home. I've missed this old studio, I've missed this old setup so much, and you know what they say, there ain't no place like home. And obviously talking about homes, the transfer window has recently just ended and lots of your favorite footballers now have new homes, and that is exactly what we'll be discussing in today's video. But jumping straight into the tier list, obviously the first club we're going to be talking about, which by the way for the last hour or two I've tried to record this video but an alarm across the street keeps on going off. So talking about alarms, let's talk about Arsenal first. Now I'm going to put Arsenal in average for now, whether I move it or not later or not, I'm not too sure. But I would say Arsenal have pretty much had an average transfer window. I think they've made the transfers that they've needed to. They've brought in the likes of Martin Odegaard on a permanent deal, Ben White for £50 million, which in terms of a future investment could be absolutely brilliant. They've brought in the likes of that young Japanese centre-back from Bologna. They've got Aaron Ramsdale as a young kind of backup goalkeeping option. I think they've brought in some really good players, but for me, it is still not enough for Arsenal in my opinion. Look, obviously they have struggled with injuries, they haven't had a fully fit team so far this season, but saying that, if Thomas Partey is always injured, why do you keep loaning out the likes of Guendouzi and Torreira? It's just not a wise decision in my opinion. And saying that, I still feel like Arsenal need a striker in the prime of their career. I don't think Lacazette or Aubameyang, even if they were playing, I don't think that would be good enough. And saying that as well, getting rid of experienced players like David Luiz, even from like an experience on the bench point of view, and getting rid of the likes of Hector Bellerin who's out on loan, I just don't think Arsenal are quite there yet. I think they've got a brilliant young squad now, obviously with Ben White in the squad, with that young Japanese centre-back in the squad. They've got Saka, they've got Smith Rowe. I think they've got a brilliant young squad, but in terms of right now, I don't view their squad as good enough. I think in the future their squad could be brilliant, but currently 20th place on the Premier League table, and they just don't have the experience that they need right now. And because of that, I'm going to put them in average. They've brought in brilliant players, but they still need quite a lot of work, to be honest with you. Now the next club I'm going to be talking about, let's talk about Crystal Palace, and I'm not going to lie, I'm putting Crystal Palace straight in the winners category for many reasons, but first of all, bringing in the likes of Eduard, a 20-goal a season kind of striker from Celtic, that is absolutely brilliant. And you guys need to tell me how on earth Crystal Palace have a 20-goal a season kind of striker, and at the moment I wouldn't say Arsenal have that. I would genuinely say Crystal Palace have a better striker than Arsenal at the moment, and to me that is absolutely shocking. I think Patrick Vieira is helping out his new club as opposed to his former club quite a lot at the moment. But saying that, he's also brought in quite a lot of nice, really good young players. The likes of Gallagher has been brilliant in the midfield. Anderson in the centre-back position. Klein on a permanent deal. I think Crystal Palace have had a very successful transfer window. I might put them in decent, but I think just because of the signings that they've made, I don't know if they could have done too much more. So I feel like they do deserve a winner's spot. Look, obviously the likes of Van Arnold leaving, I feel like is kind of a loss. But losing Townsend, in my opinion, is a huge loss for the club. I think he was a brilliant winger. But at the end of the day, I still think Crystal Palace had a brilliant transfer market. Now moving on to the next club, it is going to be our first not enough club, and it is going to be Burnley in that category. And to be honest with you, I really like Burnley. I want Burnley to do so well, but unfortunately they don't make it easy. I think it's kind of a saying now that Burnley is kind of boring. I think in the Premier League is a bunch of cool kids hanging out, and Burnley's like that one guy's dad who just kind of has to be there. He thinks he's cool, but until a year ago he thought TikTok was a kind of sweet, which, by the way, I'm not saying if you know what TikTok is that makes you cool. I really don't mean that. But looking at Burnley, the team just doesn't have enough for me. I think they've got brilliant players absolutely everywhere, but they still need that creative attacking midfielder. If they got that creative attacking midfielder, I would definitely put them in decent, but until they get that, it's still not good enough, because that is their one weak area for me. Obviously, they now have the nice of Cornet as their left back from Olympique Lyon. I think that is an absolutely brilliant signing. He can play as a winger, he can play as a fullback, proper modern day fullback. He could be a brilliant signing. Let's just hope he hits the mark better than he hits his badge on his jersey during his unveiling. But as I said, even though he's a brilliant signing, and although they lost the likes of Brady, the one thing Burnley need, in my opinion, is a creative midfielder. And until they get that, unfortunately, it is just not good enough. in my opinion. Now moving on, let's talk about Newcastle United. Once again, another average transfer window, I would say. I think the only notable transfer that they've really made is bringing in the likes of Joe Willock, which to me, that is good enough. Scored 8 goals for them last season. It takes a lot of pressure off the defense to do well. Having that kind of attacking ability, obviously it puts less pressure on some of their forwards to score goals, like Callum Wilson, definitely in St. Maximum. I think Willock was an absolutely brilliant player for them last season on loan. And to move them on a permanent deal, I think that is really a huge signing for them and will help them so much this season. So because of that, yes, I feel like they need to buy another centre-back or two, maybe another midfielder, maybe another defensive midfielder. But I think that transfer is so huge for them, I at least deserve to put them in the average category. Now moving on to the next club. Am I going to put our first losers team there or not enough team? I think it is going to be Southampton, unfortunately. Looking at Southampton, it is a team I really like, but I do feel like they've lost some major players. Losing the likes of Vestergaard, Ings, they don't have a proper left back in my opinion. They got rid of the likes of Bertrand. I feel like they need more winger options. I feel like Southampton have seriously downgraded from last season. Obviously bringing in Adam Armstrong from Blackburn. He is looking like a really brilliant striker, definitely looks hungry for the goal. Obviously bringing in a Brazilian centre-back who's got a lot of promise to him. But at the end of the day, as I said, Southampton, I just don't feel like have a good enough team and are genuinely at threat of getting relegated this season. I like Southampton, but I just think their team has been way too downgraded compared to last season. I mean, bringing in the likes of Theo Walcott on a permanent deal. Who does that? Not a team that's got confidence in themselves, to be honest with you. So because of that, I'm sorry, Southampton, but I would put your transfer market in the losers category. Next up, we've got the likes of Everton, and I'm not going to lie, I'm going to put Everton in the decent category. Obviously got a brand new manager with the likes of Rafa Benitez, but looking at their squad as a whole, bringing in Solomon Rondon, a former Premier League striker, to be your backup striker, getting the likes of Townsend from Crystal Palace, I feel like he could really fit Everton's system, bringing in Damari Gray, he's looking brilliant at the moment, bringing in the likes of Begovic as a backup goalkeeper. I think Everton have definitely made some correct moves. Obviously they lost players like Bernard and players like that. In terms of their midfield, obviously James Rodriguez doesn't look interested in the club, and Gylfi Sigurdsson, I mean, yeah, that story's that story. I'll leave that one alone. But I feel like the only thing Everton really need to move up to the winners category is, I would say, a really nice centre-back and a good attacking midfielder. But saying that, I think Everton can be very, very happy with themselves. I think putting a team in the decent or the winners category, it doesn't mean that you've recreated your whole squad and that you've got an absolutely perfect squad, but it means you've made enough improvements to move up from where that team was last season. And I think Everton can definitely say that they've improved since last season and their team last season. Now, the next team we'll talk about, let's talk about the likes of Brighton, which, by the way, guys, apologies if I do look down for a second or two. I promise you I'm not staring and smiling at my pride. I'm just reading my notes. Because believe it or not, I can't memorize every single transfer in the Premier League. It is a lot of information. But looking at the likes of Brighton, I think obviously bringing in the likes of Cucurella from Getafe, he looks like a really promising player. It's going to be interesting to see whether he plays in the left wing-back position, the left midfield position. I think he could add a lot of depth to Brighton. And in terms of losses, obviously they lost the likes of Percy Tau, Johan Bach, lots of really kind of fringe players in terms of first-team players. Obviously the big loss being Ben White, which, as I've said many times before, I don't even think Ben White is in the top 2 or top 3 centre-backs at Brighton. Got a bright future ahead of him, but I don't think he's absolutely devastating of a loss for Brighton. Obviously also lost the likes of Ryan, their goalkeeper officially, but I think Sanchez is a brilliant goalkeeper. I think Brighton can be relatively happy with their transfer window, and I don't think they'll suffer. In fact, I'm tempted to put them in decent, if not even the higher ends of average. I think they've had an okay transfer market. I don't think they'll be disappointed whatsoever. Now, moving on to the next team, let's talk about the likes of, let's talk about the likes of Chelsea. I am going to put Chelsea in winners. I know people are going to say, but Chelsea weren't that busy in the transfer market. But at the end of the day, Chelsea were Champions League winners last season. They don't have to fully rebuild or remake their entire team. They'll probably lose points for that. Look, obviously they lost the likes of Kurt Zouma to West Ham United, which is a funny one because I feel like Kurt Zouma could be Chelsea's best centre-back. I think he's brilliant on his day. They lost Tammy Abraham to AS Roma. I do feel like that is a loss because I think he is a proper striker. I genuinely think Tammy Abraham could have been that step-up replacement striker for Timo Werner. Obviously losing Giroud to AC Milan, but bringing in big old Romelu Lukaku, who on his day is the best striker in the world. 24 goals in Serie A last season, only under only Cristiano Ronaldo. That's not too bad. Obviously bringing in Sol, who, yes, they didn't need another midfielder, but he adds that depth, and they've genuinely got a fantastic starting lineup for the Champions League now and the Premier League. I think Chelsea have such a strong squad going forward. Yes, they lost one or two big players, but I don't think Chelsea will suffer. They've got so much depth everywhere on the pitch. They just have to go in winners because they look unstoppable this season. And I'm slightly scared of them, to be honest with you. Next up, we're going to be looking at Leeds United, who I think I'm going to put them at average. I don't know if I'm going to put them at decent or not. Obviously, the likes of Helder Costa went out on loan to the likes of Valencia in La Liga, but they brought in the likes of Daniel James, which obviously this has been rumoured ever since he moved to Manchester United that he would eventually go there. I think it's a brilliant signing. I think they need that pace. I think he's going to be brilliant for them. They kind of needed a new left wing if Daniel James plays on that side. Obviously, they did lose the likes of Alioski, but the likes of Furpa has moved from Barcelona. Hasn't been terrific yet, but one for the future, definitely. I would say the only thing that stops them going higher up on my tier list is the fact that they don't really have... I think they need one or two more brilliant centre-backs. That might just be my opinion. Obviously, they brought in a new centre-back by the names of, I think it's Hjelde. I think that's how you pronounce it. I haven't seen him play too much, so it's a bit early for me to comment on his ability. But I think Leeds United have got a really good team going forward, but they do need to kind of improve in their defensive areas. Now, next up, who should we talk about? Let's talk about the likes of Brentford. Now, I am going to put Brentford in the, once again, another average team in my opinion. I know lots of people are going to say, yeah, but they haven't spent £100 million once they got to the Premier League like a Fulham did, for example. Saying that over the last 2 years, Brentford have been the top scoring team in the championship for 2 seasons running. They've got a brilliant goalkeeper in the likes of Raya. I think they've got a really good squad. Obviously, they've got the likes of Nyaka from Midtjylland in their midfield, who absolutely dominated the midfield versus Arsenal. They got the likes of Aya, a new centre-back. Yes, they could have made new transfers here and there, but they still got the likes of Ivan Toney. They've got Canos, they've got Raya. They've got a fantastic squad. So, you know what? I don't think they needed that many improvements. Yes, they still do need quite a few improvements, but I think average is at least what they deserve. I think they've done some really, really good business. Now, the next club I'm going to be talking about, should we talk about them? I think let's talk about Liverpool next. I am going to say Liverpool, not enough. Look, Liverpool still have a fantastic squad. They brought in the likes of Konata, obviously from RB Leipzig as a new centre-back. And that is it. That is all of the players that they've brought in. Look, he could potentially be a really good centre-back. Saying that, though, I don't think Liverpool have improved in the areas they needed to. They haven't replaced the likes of Wijnaldum. Even when they had Wijnaldum, they needed an attacking midfielder. A player like Danny Olmo from RB Leipzig, which I don't know if they would have given him away. I mean, they seem to be giving all of their presents away. It's like a very obvious secret Santa. I mean, not so much a secret Santa, but they're kind of just giving away all their best players, kind of destroying themselves. Tiny bit sad. But yeah, they also do need a proper striker. I feel like they need a proper number 9 striker, although Liverpool don't play in that system. But the likes of Firmino doesn't always cut it, in my opinion. Yeah, unfortunately, Liverpool, I think you guys have a very strong team. You could still compete for the title this year, but I still feel like there are just 1 or 2 players that you definitely needed to get in your squad, and you did not do that. Now, the next team I'm going to be talking about is going to be the likes of Wolverhampton Wanderers. Once again, another not enough, in my opinion, kind of team. Obviously, a huge transfer that left the club was Rui Patricio, who I thought was a fantastic goalkeeper on his day. Obviously, they brought in the likes of Sarr from Olympiacos. I think he could be a very good goalkeeper, potentially. We'll have to see more from him. They brought in Trincao from Barcelona on loan. But to me, Wolves have so many weak points on their team. Jimenez still has to gain his confidence. They obviously brought in that young Korean striker. Maybe he could do well on loan. Obviously young, very promising, but they don't have enough attackers to me that can really hit the mark or hit the target. I think Adama Traore is fantastic. I mean, the problem though is, yes, he can get from one side of the field in less seconds than anyone else, but that makes a good YouTube clip. It doesn't necessarily help the team out. Until Adama Traore can hit the target, I still feel like Wolves have to improve in attack. I feel like defensively, they've been a bit sloppy. Midfield-wise, they need another attacking midfielder. I find that there are too many weak points for Wolves that they really didn't sort out. I'm actually close to putting them in the losers category, but I think not good enough will suffice, for now at least. Now, next up, let's talk about Norwich, obviously recently re-promoted to the Premier League. Whether I put them in decent or whether I might just put them in winners, to be honest with you. Yes, I'm not too sure that they'll stay in the Premier League, whether they'll avoid relegation. I feel like maybe they do need another striker option. They got the likes of Sargent, I think that's how you pronounce it, the American striker. They got the likes of Rashika, they got the likes of Billy Gilmore. They got fantastic players, Kabak in the centre-back position, Williams on loan from Manchester United in their left-back position. They have done incredible business this transfer window, and genuinely, I don't know if they could have done much more in my opinion, and because of that, I feel like I have to put them in the winners category. I didn't expect them to do the business that they did this transfer window, and it might actually be good enough to stay in the Premier League this season. I think they've done terrific business. I mean, Kabak, who played for Liverpool last season, I think he deserves regular Premier League football, so for Norwich to get them, they can be happy. Yes, obviously losing Buendia is huge, one of their top goal and assist makers in the squad, but saying that, I think it was bound to happen, and obviously I think they've used this fee and transfers quite wisely. And obviously talking about Buendia, the next club I'm going to be talking about is Aston Villa. Now, do I make this another decent transfer window? Or I might just put this as another winners. I'm being very generous today, guys. I mean, I'm just in that kind of mood, I guess. But bringing in Danny Ings, a top goal-scoring striker, having the likes of Buendia in your midfield, having the likes of Leon Bailey, having Twanzebe added to your squad, Ashley Young. I think Aston Villa have done incredible work and have really brought in a lot of depth to their squad. I do feel like to an extent maybe they do need another bossy defensive midfielder. Maybe they need more fullback options. Yes, they did lose Jack Grealish, but they can be very happy with how their transfer window left. Yes, as I said, they lost Jack Grealish, but £100 million, that's a lot of money. Whether Jack Grealish was worth £100 million, obviously a bit controversial, but using that money, I think they've used it very wisely, and I don't think they'll suffer this season without Jack Grealish because of that. So, as I said, at the end of the day, I think they can be very, very happy with themselves. Now, next up, we've got Watford, who, once again, maybe another not enough club, in my opinion. I think the likes of Watford have brought in brilliant players like Sissoko. Obviously, they've got Danny Rose, but at the same time, they have also lost players like Troy Deeney, who, yes, not a definite first-team player anymore. They have lost the likes of Hughes, which is a huge loss to Crystal Palace, which, once again, another big reason why Crystal Palace is up here at the moment. But as I said, I think Watford have lost some crucial players. I don't think they've got a good enough squad at the moment. Brilliant at championship levels, but whether they are good enough yet to be in the Premier League. Danny Rose has had a good start to the club. I think Sissoko could be a really good midfielder for them. But I still feel like they are missing just one or two more positions. Maybe another centre-back, maybe another right-back, maybe another striker option. I just feel like there are too many weak points in the team. And as I said, losing a player like Hughes is absolutely huge for the club. So because of that, I'm going to put Watford in not enough, because I'm still deadly scared that they will get relegated. Now, next up, we've got the likes of Tottenham Hotspurs, which, I'm not going to lie, I am going to put them in average. Obviously, losing the likes of Toby Alderweireld, that is an absolutely huge loss for the club, but they brought in the likes of Christian Romero, who could be a solid centre-back option. Obviously, losing Sissoko in the midfield, I feel like that is a huge loss, but I don't think that Spurs will hugely suffer from that. But I'm not going to lie, the huge reason why I kind of consider Spurs' transfer window a success is because they got to keep the likes of Harry Kane. Look, say what you want, I don't think Spurs are totally dependent on Harry Kane to be successful in the future. Obviously, Son and Lucas Moura and Bergwijn, I think their connections look powerful. Dele Alli is definitely improving this season. But saying that, losing your top goal scorer and assist maker from last season, that would impact the team. So to keep him for another season or two is obviously huge for the club. As I said, maybe they do need to strengthen in one or two more areas, but I think average. I think they've had a very good transfer window, and it's average at best. I don't think it was a bad transfer window, but wasn't absolutely amazing. Keeping your top striker, I think that's really good of them. Now, next up, we've got the likes of Leicester City, who I would say had a decent transfer window. Obviously, they got the likes of Daka up front, who's looking like a really promising youngster. They got the look, I think Lookman is a brilliant signing. Obviously on loan there. We saw him out on loan at Fulham last season. I think he's a brilliant player. And I think Leicester City can be very happy with the transfers they've made. Obviously, now they've got the likes of Vestergaard as well in the centre-back position, which I know a lot of people are going to say, yeah, but he's not a fantastic centre-back. Yes, it adds depth to Leicester City, in my opinion, and that's why it's great. And it also takes away a top rival centre-back from Southampton. Obviously, they got the likes of Bertrand as well from left-back. I think that Leicester City made some transfers that will really help them this season. Yeah, we're going to have to see how it goes, but I think Leicester City can be relatively happy. Now, we've got three teams left, being West Ham United, Manchester United, and Manchester City. I think we're going to start off with the likes of West Ham United, who I think I'm going to put in decent at the moment. They've obviously got the likes of Kroll, another defensive midfielder from Czech Republic, which I'm starting to think David Moyes has a tiny bit of a Czech Republic fetish at this point. But you know what? If it works, it works. Obviously, now they've got the likes of Souček, Soufal, and Kroll, the kind of Czech Republic link. I still feel, though, that West Ham do need another strike option. Obviously, they got that Croatian attacking midfielder. I think West Ham have got a very good squad. They've really started the season off super strong, especially getting the likes of Kurt Zouma as a backup centre-back option, or even a starting centre-back option. He's almost guaranteed to start. As I said, I think he's good enough to start for Chelsea, so for West Ham United to get him, I think that is absolutely brilliant. I do feel, though, that West Ham United need a bit more depth in their fullback positions. Obviously, they also got the likes of Areola, a Champions League goalkeeper, as kind of a backup goalkeeper. I'm actually almost very tempted to put West Ham United in winners. I think I'm going to put them at the high ends of decent, if possible. This Everton one doesn't seem to move. There we go. I think West Ham can be very, very happy with their transfer window, and there's not too much they could have done. Maybe another strike option, as I said, but they can be very happy. Now, guys, we move into the final two teams. First of all, we're going to be looking at Manchester City, and where am I going to put Manchester City? To be honest, I might put them at not enough. While planning this video, I'm not going to lie, I was very tempted to put Manchester City in the decent to almost winners category. I mean, I think they've got a very strong squad to an extent. I don't think they need a new striker. They won over 30 games last season without a striker, but it really does hurt me the fact that Man City doesn't have a striker. Look, I'm not a Man City fan. Obviously, they still have Gabriel Jesus, but losing the likes of Sergio Aguero, your club's top goal scorer of all time, to not get Harry Kane, to not get a 20-goal-a-season kind of striker, I think that might hurt Manchester City. And £100 million on Jack Grealish. You cannot tell me that Jack Grealish is worth £100 million. Look, I think he's a brilliant player. I genuinely think he has potential to be England's best player. But I would say for 70 to 80 million pounds and then have more money for a striker like Harry Kane, purely because Manchester City didn't buy that striker that they needed. I think that is a huge loss for them, and I would put them in not good enough just because of how high Manchester City's expectations are. I expected a tiny bit more. As I said, that is a lot of money for Jack Grealish, and we'll have to see in the long run whether it pays off, but I'm not too sure that's what they should have done. As I said, I think they've got a lot of great wingers, they've got a lot of really good attacking midfielders, and a striker is what they needed. But guys, moving on to the final club, it is Manchester United, my club. Whether I put them in decent or winners, it just has to be winners. Look, I'll be the first one to admit Manchester United need another defensive midfielder. They need a midfielder so bad. But how can you not put a team in winners that just got Cristiano Ronaldo, Jadon Sancho, Rafael Varane? That is brilliant transfer work. As I said, they need another midfielder, but if you get Cristiano Ronaldo, even at 36 years old, for £25 million, that is brilliant business that will help the club. Varane, a multiple Champions League winning centre-back. Obviously, Sancho looking like a really good right midfielder option. Obviously, the replacement for Daniel James almost. I think Manchester United can be very proud with themselves. And guys, what have we learned from this video? The fact that it is an absolute miracle that somehow Arsenal spends more than every single team here. Guys, that is the end of today's video. That is the end of my tier list. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. And as I said, I still can't believe Arsenal spent more than every single one of these teams. It is absolutely absurd in a transfer window where Jack Grealish moved for £100 million. Lukaku moved back to Chelsea. Manchester United bought Ronaldo, Sancho and Varane. And somehow Arsenal still spent more than everyone else. To me, that is absolutely absurd. But we'll have to see how the season goes. It is slightly too early to judge. As I said, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun making it. If you're not subscribed and you want to catch more content from me in the future, make sure that you are subscribed down below. I would really appreciate it. Obviously, we are kind of approaching the next milestone in terms of 1,700 subscribers. I would really appreciate hitting that. And obviously, hit the like button down below. If there's anything here that you do disagree with, obviously, this is just my opinion, but leave your opinions down below. Do you think I've put one team too high on the tier list, too low on the tier list? We'll have to wait and see. But guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been Finn, FYNN, and it is so good to be back in my old studio. I'll catch you guys soon. Cheers.